Thank you. Welcome, everyone. Thank you for attending this session after lunch. No, it's a difficult one. We'll try to keep it entertaining. So my name is Jeffrey. I'm a manager of solution architecture. I'm based in Zurich, in Switzerland, and I'm from AWS. And I'm here with Colin. Colin, how do we say? Colin. Perfect. From head of cloud infrastructure from Telsys. So that Telsys is a partner of AWS in Switzerland. And what we would like to talk about today is really like, first of all, what is how AWS is approaching security in general. A little bit of news about what we are doing in Switzerland, because that's a big year, 2022 for AWS in Switzerland, because we are opening a region. I will talk a little bit more about that. And then we're going to talk about the security approach, and then I will hand over to Colin, explaining you how Telsys can help you with your migration in the cloud, and all topics that are linked to security and disaster recovery. Yes, it's working. Okay, so first of all, about AWS as such, for maybe like some of you know already quite a bit about AWS and what we are doing. We have, what is very important, we have a global infrastructure all over the world, and everything on AWS is based on the concept of region, which are local infrastructure that we have in many countries, and we have now like 26 regions in the world. And we have announced 8 new regions that will open in the coming months and years. And in 2022, we will have the Swiss region, which will be based in the Zurich area, that will open in second half of the year. So pretty close now. The business is really we are investing a lot in Switzerland. So the region is obviously one of the important topics, but also all the functions which are coming with it, which are really like to support our customers in all aspects, and also in our partners ecosystem, like with Telsys. Yeah. So that's the plan for this year, very important year for Switzerland. Just to give you an idea, because that's a question we get asked very often, is like how big are you in Switzerland, or how much like customers do we have? So we have more than 10,000 customers in Switzerland from all size. Some very famous names that you can see here, but many customers in various areas, really starting from the big enterprise. We have many startups, we have many ISVs as well. And in different verticals. All right. So why a region in Switzerland? There is a specificity about Switzerland for sure. It's based on its market, and on the type of customer we have. And what we have heard in the recent years is for many customers to host their data in another country was a problem. Sometimes it was a regulatory problem, like in the finance industry. Sometimes it was just a wish, like people were not so keen to host their data in the closest region, which is Frankfurt, or in other region we have in Europe, like Dublin, for instance. So we have identified really this need, and we thought it would really make sense to build this region for the local market in Switzerland. The key benefits of having a region, because it will be a very standard region, like everything we are building all over the world. I will come back on that. But the key benefits that you get by hosting your workloads in Switzerland are like the one you get from other regions, but more specifically also, the first of all is reduced latency. Sometimes it's not a problem. If we talk about latency in general from Switzerland to Frankfurt, it's usually between 10 and 20 milliseconds. So that's, for most of the workloads, not an issue. For some of the workload, it could be. So that's something to take into consideration. The second benefit, which is very important, I mentioned it in the introduction, is data residency. So as I said, there are some industries, some sectors like banking, insurance, but telco as well, where it's important by law, by regulation, to keep some of the data in the country. So this will be possible now, of course, with the opening of the region. And of course, we have customers who just prefer to keep their data in Switzerland, and they will be able to do that as well. And then, like the benefits you get from like using AWS all over the world in every region, and that's automatically from the new region everything related to security and compliance. And I will come back on what that means in particular. You will get it from the Swiss region, so it will look like the other one in terms of compliance as well and of security features. It will be a multiple availability zone region from day one. I will explain what it means. And we will have also some local connectivities that will be in place in order for our customer who have a hybrid infrastructure, for example, between their on-prem data center and the region in Switzerland to be connected in the most secure and efficient way. So just what is a region? And I'm sure many of you are familiar with that concept already. But it's really like a concept we are using all over the world. All of our regions are composed of three what so-called availability zones, 3 or more, but all the new ones are coming with 3, which are basically, imagine them as independent data centers. So they are located in different area in a location. In that case, it will be around Zurich, by minimum 20 kilometers of distance between each other, with different risk profiles. So, for example, they have different energy providers and so on and so forth. They are connected in dark fiber, so sub-millisecond between them in a secured way. And for each region, we have 2 transit centers redundant in terms of connectivity to the AWS backbone worldwide. So all traffic is encrypted between the availability zone and also on the AWS backbone we have all over the world. Yeah. That's what I can say about the structure of a region. And of course, the Swiss region will be exactly on the same framework. Now, this was just like to give you a heads up of what is coming to Switzerland and what we are deploying all over the world in many more places in the coming months in terms of infrastructure. And now I wanted to give you a summary of our security approach at AWS in general. So, of course, what is really challenging when you manage an infrastructure or data center or classical IT infrastructure in terms of security? And that's no mystery. There are many things which are challenging, of course, but 2 things are really what we hear from our customer are really difficult to address when you are building an infrastructure over time, when you have created your all data centers and the different layers and the different services and systems on top of it. After sometimes it's getting really difficult to get a full visibility on everything which is happening. So not only let's say like the physical infrastructure, but also what is happening on the network, what is happening on the servers, who has access to what, and so on and so forth. So that's the first challenge. And then the second challenge is usually, because it's not designed for that, like by essence, is the low level of automation that most of the companies have in terms of how they manage their data center. And that's really the 2 things we are addressing much better, I would say, in the cloud by providing like really visibility on everything that you are running and providing also this capability of integrating like automation in terms of operation in general. That's a benefit of the cloud in general, but also in terms of security, in terms of incident response, for example, and so on and so forth. So basically, what we have in what the service we are providing is really like allowing you this possibility of, first of all, getting global compliance and security controls like we have in all our region, and you get that out of the box when you are using AWS services. You get these benefits with the workload you are deploying on it. I will come back on that. It addresses another challenge, is when you scale and when you are growing, the more services, the more systems you are deploying, you will get like the same level of visibility and of control on your system just by deploying them on the cloud. What we have as well is like the scale of where we are applying compliance and security is very high. We have millions of customers all over the world. You can imagine we have a lot of requirements. We have a lot of security incidents as well, and a lot of security discussions. And we are learning really at scale a lot about like all these topics and improving over time. And this is something we are giving back to all our customers by implementing new control, new systems, new process in terms of security, of privacy, and compliance. So that means also every small customer starting with like, I don't know, a few workloads will get the same security standards as the very big ones. Automation, I mentioned it already, and I will come back on that, is a very important topic that you will get because everything is based on API, and you have a full visibility on everything you are doing. And in addition to that, and that's very important for our largest customers, for big enterprise, we have a very big ecosystem of partners. So that means not only partners that can help you to implement security in general or implement workloads in the cloud, but also the typical partners that you are using on-premise in terms of security. So that could be your classical SIEM partners or firewalls, or you name them. So with security comes also compliance and controls. Our approach to compliance is really to get third-party audits. So you can imagine that at that scale, with 26 regions all over the world, millions of customers, and I don't know how many, like millions or thousands of millions of servers and workloads and everything. This is not something that can be done ad hoc and that we can basically redo each time we have a new customer deploying their workload on AWS. So our approach for scaling is really to have third-party audits, and our approach as well is to get like all the certifications our customers are needed for their business. So that's just a fraction of them. We have more than 100, I think. We have the largest number of certifications from all the cloud providers, and that's really in all areas. So that can be like industry standards, like FISMA, for example, or PCI DCS, or this kind of certifications. It can be local certifications as well, like C5 in Germany, and so on and so forth. So really that's important. And again, the Swiss region, when it will be deployed, will enter also this cycle of certification and will get over time, of course not from day one, will get audited and will get all the certification we have all over. Okay, so we talked about the visibility and control already, but that's okay. What does that mean? How is it implemented? So one of the very important aspect of control is really to know who has access to what, and I think that sounds like obvious, but it's not so always so easy to know and to control it. So again, on AWS, everything is controlled with like identity and access management, and we have a very strong and granular system or set of services that allows you to control your identity and your access from everything you deploy on AWS. So that's users, of course, who are using the platform, but that's every resource, every principles, every role you can define. And we have also something which is very important, which is really like per default, when you deploy something on AWS, it has access, or resource, whatever, it has access to nothing. So it's really like a whitelisting approach that you are basically forced to do when you use AWS. What is very important for visibility is the monitoring and the access to what's going on. So you, per default, and that's coming out of the box, you get all the logs of all the API calls, which are like done on the platform, and also on, for example, network flow logs. So that's really just, I remember back in the days when I was working for as a customer and at the on-prem data center, it was so difficult to get the network flow logs because of scaling, because of performance issue and so on. Literally with AWS, it's one checkbox that you have to click and you get all the flow logs. And then, of course, based on these logs, based on these events, you can trigger API calls because everything is based on APIs, and that means you can automate things based on different types of events. And last but not least, you can integrate AWS services with all your existing solutions, because that's a request we get from many customers. It's very rare that we have customers which are 100% on AWS. That happens. We have like the Netflix and some other customers, but the vast majority of our customers, they already have an on-prem infrastructure. They already are using maybe some other cloud provider, and they already are using some security providers. They have their own firewalls, for example, or stuff like this. And they want to manage that in a central way and to automate that all over the place, not only in the cloud, but also on-prem, and to be able to control that centrally. So this is also possible as well. So in terms of standard for privacy and data security, we talked about that a little bit, but we have a few key points here you have to keep in mind. First of all, when your data are in a region like Switzerland, we will not move your data, of course, unless you want to move them. So you will really have the possibility to meet this data residency requirements, and that's including all the metadata which are also around your workloads. That means, for example, the logs and stuff like this that are staying in the region. You also have the possibility to implement some guardrails and some compliance monitoring about, like, is it really true that it's not moving? The second thing which is super important is we say to our customers, like, they should encrypt everything, because you never know. And we also provide tools in order to do that, because encryption can be quite a challenge, again, in an infrastructure you manage. And we strive at providing, like, the easiest tool possible and the most flexible one in order to encrypt everything at rest and in transit. Just to give you some example, we have, for example, KMS, which is a key management system where you can manage your keys for all your API calls, and you can either use, like, keys which are managed for you, or you can manage or use your own keys. And we have also, for example, a cloud HSM service, which is really an HSM running with a full set of features of an HSM, but running in the cloud for you, where you can manage your keys. Again, we talked about the privacy laws in general, and this is done really through compliance and certification. So we will help our customers to comply with the local laws and any regulations they are submitted to. And we provide some tools in order for you to do that. Automation, I talked about it a little bit. This is really a key aspect which is helping a lot, as you know, I'm sure, about security. The less you have manual intervention, or the more you can focus on the really serious stuff, and the less time and resource you spend on the, I would say, the day-to-day operation, the more efficient you are. So the idea is really to provide this efficiency in terms of operation by basically providing you some ways to manage, like in a very nice way, an automated way, things which are super important for security, but which are painful and resource consuming, like patching, updating, getting audit reports, identifying like problems very early, and taking action based on that. And this is based, of course, on continuous monitoring, as I said, and being able to automate as much as possible through a set of API. And that includes basically, like I would say, the day-to-day operational compliance and security baseline, but also how do you address threats, and how do you remediate like security issues, and how do you do incident response. Okay, so if we look at, and I will not detail all of them because we are in total at AWS we have more than 200 services, and it's growing every year. So it can be a little bit overwhelming. So I just put on one slide all the security-related specific services. That's quite a lot already. Here. You don't have to remember all the names, but it's just to illustrate also our approach to it. We have what we call the well-architected framework, which is a framework where we collected a set of best practices for our customers in different areas. And one of this area is a security. We call it a security pillar. And in this security pillar, we address all the domains you are familiar with, like identity and access management, providing, as I said, like a full set of services to manage your identities. And that goes really from managing the roles, putting the policies in place, etc., to single sign-on, like federation with directory services you may have in place already, or with external tools, or with AD, for example, etc. We also have a set of detective controls, which are helping you really to understand what's going on and to identify problems. So it comes from like it goes from very basic stuff, like one service like CloudTrail, which is really a log where you have all API calls. But we have more advanced services, even some services like Amazon GuardDuty, which is using AI/ML in order to identify the anomalies in the logs and to help you to detect really threats that would take a lot of time to detect otherwise. Infrastructure protection in general, very classical stuff, but in the cloud, like managing firewalls. Again, AWS Firewall Manager is a service that you can use and integrate with partners, with firewalls like coming from firewalls vendor or security vendors, for example, or you can have like managed firewall provided by us. We have web application firewalls, etc., etc. Data protection, as I said, it's mainly about encryption and managing secrets. Incident response, and that's really about services which are connected to security, but what happens if there is a problem, typically backup, disaster recovery, and so on. And everything related to compliance. So in compliance, that means the reports you can get from like the SOC report, for example, or certification from external party, and also some capabilities for you to set up some kind of real-time compliance with Audit Manager and to define your own controls and to check like they are compliant all the time. As I said, we have the largest ecosystem of security partners in solutions in general. Many known names here. Some are, I think, are here even, like in the conference. This is just to show you again that it's not because you are going in the cloud that you have to change everything, especially in terms of how you manage your security in an hybrid environment. So that's very important, and integration with these tools, with these services, whether it's really like on the network layer, like I mentioned already, firewall, application security, or even like encryption, and the SIEM part of things or logging part of things, super important, and also the identity and access controls. This is something we are doing almost with every big customer, is how to federate identities with what they have in place at the moment. Okay, and I wanted to conclude a little bit with just to give you an overview of what we call the shared responsibility model. That's important to understand, where we basically put the border between what is our responsibility as AWS, as a cloud provider, and the responsibility of the customer. So this is called the shared responsibility model because it's a shared responsibility between the two. We have what we call the security of the cloud. That's our responsibility. We take like full ownership for it, and that starts with the physical security in the data center, as you can imagine, up to the level of the hypervisor for virtual machines, but also for more and more for managed services, which are serverless, where we manage the security of course of the managed services for you. And then there is security in the cloud. It's what the customers are implementing with us. And of course, you can implement something very insecure on AWS, no problem. And you can do crazy stuff. You can share your secret keys on GitHub, for example, or things like this. It's quite interesting. Some people tried. It takes like, I think, below 30 seconds until they are used by some bots. So you can do crazy stuff. But of course, we provide, first of all, tools and services, as I mentioned, in order for customers to implement secure architectures on AWS. And we provide them best practices also, of course, that we have learned from these millions of customers we have all over the world, and we provide support as well, whether it's through architecture support or professional services or partners that can help you with building secure architecture on AWS. And yeah, that was it on my side, what I wanted to share with you. So thank you very much, and I hand over to Kola.
Thank you, Geoffrey. So, hello everyone, my name is Szajkowski, and I'm the head of cloud infrastructure at Telsys, as Geoffrey said at the beginning of the presentation. And I will talk to you about our cloud services at Telsys for the year 2022. First of all, we will start with who are we, Telsys, because I think there is a lot of people who don't know us. Our services, the cloud migration, how do we see your cloud migration, and how can we assist you on it? And then we finish with a quick review on backup on the cloud, and with a little focus on the pair Vim on AWS. So who are we? Telsys. We are Swiss cyber specialists. We are the sister company of SCRT, with the company that organized that event, Insomnihack. So we were bought by SCRT in July 2020, and we decided to create an alliance of the two companies, SCRT more for the security side and Telsys for the data center and infrastructure side. Together we are more than 90 employees, all based in March in a common office near the train station. And all are recognized specialists in their own fields. So for Telsys more specifically, it's more than 20 years of services in French-speaking part of the Switzerland. Before we were bought by CRT, we were known as Telecom System, and we were renamed at Telsys last year. So we offer proximity and quality of service for our customer for the integration of hardware, software, and cloud solution. Our CEO is Nicolas Lutz, and our CTO is Adriano Palazzo. Unfortunately, both of them are not here today, but we have a thought for them. So what are today's challenges for you? Usually it's cost optimization, time to market, and reactivity. And of course, cloud computing is key to face this challenge. With the implementation of a workload in a new cloud infrastructure from on-prem to public or private cloud. With the automation and the DevOps approach to facilitate development of your workload and application, validation test, and the implementation of the solution in the cloud. And of course, to reduce the cost and with the pay-per-use philosophy of the cloud providers. So our service, for us, what we can do to assist you, we can assist you to migrate your application quickly and securely to the cloud, of course, by switching your business need. We can help you to transform your workload by following a certain migration path that we will decide on the assessment. Optimize the workload once they are in the cloud by enjoying the cloud scalability and optimizing performance and cost. And innovate by using the latest innovation service from AWS, for example. So during the cloud migration, we can divide it in 6 points. The assessment, which for us is the most important part of the cloud migration, where we will define the destination architecture, the migration strategy. And then after that, but we will make a quick focus on the assessment just after. Once the assessment is done and the migration strategy is defined, we will set in place a pilot, a sort of POC, where you will be able to validate that everything is work as you want. Then we will do the migration following the migration path and the transformation if needed, the optimization, and finally the operation and administration of the deployed services. And we also provide a support for the deployed services. And finally, automation with containerization and orchestration. For backup in cloud or in hybrid cloud, we can provide you some delegation and monitoring. You can delegate your backup to us to delegate your backup strategy. We can assist you for your migration from on-premise to cloud, or even for doing a copy to the cloud for respecting the 3-to-1 rule. We can assist you by setting a full cloud backup also, and for Office 365 and Action Online, for example. And finally, different cloud services like storage as a service, more specifically with NetApp technology, NetApp Cloud, like NetApp Cloud Volume ONTAP, which allow you to use ONTAP, SnapMirror, SnapVault to the cloud, or FSx or other cloud technology. Even VDI and virtual apps with Citrix Cloud, which can be either on-prem or hybrid too, if you want your storefront to be in the cloud and your delivery controller on-premise. You can mix your architecture. And on-demand apps based on a future assessments that we make based on your requirement. So the cloud migration, how we see it, and how can we assist you on your cloud migration? First of all, the assessment. During the assessment, we will review every part of your workload, beginning with the business goal and objective. Why do you want to migrate to the cloud? What is the purpose of your migration? Is it for cost optimization, or to reduce RPO, or something else? When we have the goal, we have the leading path for all the migration. So we will begin with inventory by doing an inventory of all your application with identification and segmentation of the workloads. For the migration, we'll do an inventory of all the physical and software in place with storage, server, databases. And with these inventories, we'll create a technology catalog by listing all the technologies that are used in your workload to define potentially dependencies and a breaking point. With the inventory, we can create the mapping, which is a schematic of the workload, and we will define application manager with a meeting with each application manager to identify all the specificity you can have in your company. Once the mapping is done, we can define the validation of the application and the migration path. So it's based on the 6R rule: refactor, replatform, repurchase, rehost, retire, and retain. So the refactor if we have the access to the source code And of course, the skills internally, we can refactor your application if needed for the cloud. Replatform, it's lift and shape. So it's you're changing your hosting platform. Repurchase, it's drop and shop if you want to replace an in-place solution by your services from the marketplace. Rehost, it's lift and ship. Retire, if you want to, if the workload in question or the application using the workload is not needed anymore, we can retire it definitely, or retain. We have to keep it on premise. And with this 6L rule, we define the migration path for your application by using the best practices from different providers. And finally, we can define the migration strategy with a definition of cloud management workflows, target network infrastructure, target apps, target services, and the definition and mapping of services and the instances that we will need to define the migration plan, which is a plan that will be followed step by step during the migration and optimization part. So we saw the assessment. Just after the assessment, there is a pilot, a POC, when we deploy the workload and give you access to it to validate. Then the migration optimization. So we follow the migration plan step by step defined in the assessment part. Then we create a cloud service and configure it, scaling if necessary. And then we execute the test and validation plan to verify everything is okay for you. And finally, we provide you some monitoring and support for deployed apps in the cloud with a different SLA depending on your super contract. So that's how we can assist you during your cloud migration. I speak a little quickly. For the backups, what we propose are backup on-prem, full cloud, hybrid cloud, or even cloud apps, which can be Exchange Online, SharePoint, Teams, OneDrive, and some integrated services from different cloud providers that are supported by our backup editor. So for the backup, we propose you, we have 3 main solutions, depending of your required. If for a large scope of our customers, they need to have their data local in Switzerland and on a specific cloud provider, so we can propose a backup as a service offer with Vim Cloud Connect technology. In this solution, we manage all your backup, and your backup have a backup copy in our private cloud. Or if you don't have specific requirement from your company policy or something else, we usually propose Vim on AWS or Commvault Metallic on AWS. We will see after why Vim on AWS is specific, because it's my favorite. But if you have on-prem, it can be VMware or Hyper-V infrastructure that you need to back up and to do a copy or something else in the cloud, we strongly recommend Vim for all the functionality it comes with. But if you have only Office 365, we push more Metallic because it's really easier to deploy and to manage, and it's really user-friendly. Sorry. So why Vim on AWS? First of all, because it's directly integrated on AWS Marketplace. You didn't have to deploy anything. Just 3-click and then you have your backup solution in place. You can bring your own instance, so it's or there is some free trial or run directly on the marketplace. And moreover, it's because Vim supports capacity tier and archive tier in S3 bucket, sorry. Capacity tier in S3 Classic and archive tier in S3 SCR. And by using this solution, you can save up to 20 times costs of your backup lifecycle management. Because when you write in the CR, if you don't have to consult too much time the backup file itself, it really costs nearly nothing. So when you set the capacity tier to archive tier, so you have to know that you must have a scaled backup repository to define the capacity tier. And because on a classic repository, you don't have the possibility to define a capacity tier. And then when you do that, and you are setting a capacity tier and archive tier, two types of tier of tiering, Vim will deploy temporary proxy appliance to do the conversion. So it's transparent for the customer. You don't have to deploy another another peripheral services. And la cerise sur le gâteau, excusez-moi pour l'anglais, c'est qu'en AWS only, Vim supports the immutability from start to finish. So this is really appreciated for the customer, especially actually with all the crypto locker attack and ransomware. So you can have a hardened repository on-premise or in the cloud, and from the capacity tier to the performance tier to the capacity tier to the archive tier, you will have immutability on your backup file. So you guarantee that no one can corrupt it if you need one day to restore your backup. Also, Vim can help you to migrate your infrastructure from private cloud to public cloud, or in the other way, from public to private, with complete Vim backup application integration if you have a Vim server on premise. And the common file format not lock you with the vendor. If one day you want to change your backup provider or your backup editor, you can always consult and use your backup file. So Vim supports Snowball Edge for your migration. If you need to use a Snowball to process a large amount of data, AWS, it saves bandwidth and time, of course. And Snowball Edge can be clustered in multiple edge bugs. So as we see, there are backup on S3 with the capacity and archive tier, the encryption and immutability from start to finish. Backup from Office 365 application and on-premise and in the cloud to local or to an object storage. Vim is cloud native. Vim is agentless because it uses Elastic Block Storage Snapshot, and it uses Elastic Block Storage Snapshot for cost effective on a bucket S3 repository. So okay, so that's it from me. Thank you for your attention. If you have any question, feel free to ask or to come and see us at our stand near SCRT just downstairs.
Thank you very much for your presentation. I think we've got a few minutes for questions. So are there any questions for either Geoffrey or Colin?
Thank you. So it's a question for Geoffrey. A lot of people are talking now about confidential computing and about the fact of putting Intel GPX CPUs in the data centers. On your side, you have Nitro, I think, that is there for this, well, at least to answer this issue. How well does Nitro answers the confidential computing, and do you anticipate that you'll have Intel CPUs with GPX enabled soon in your data centers, or you don't need them?
Yeah, that's a very interesting topic. So yeah, Nitro is our architecture and for confidential computing, and we started many years ago. It's like by changing completely the way the hypervisor was working, and we now have put that together in parallel with our own chip building, and now everything is really in line. Now more and more customers are interested in that, using Nitro and using Graviton processors that we are building on our own, exactly for that reason. There is another reason, is like also performances, like versus costs, because you can really also save cost with that, because it's very efficient. Now regarding a question about like more specifically Intel, I don't have the answer, but that's a very good point. That you know, we are at AWS, we are always saying we are working backwards from customers. So what I can tell you is, for sure, if this is a demand coming from customer, this is something we will certainly consider. But today I don't know what is the plan, to be honest. Maybe there is one. That does not mean there is none, but I'm not aware of it.
Any more questions? All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you.